What is happening, everybody? I'm Steve Taylor, host of RocketMSP. Today I'm joined by Zach Kromkowski.
You got it.
All right.
Too good. I know it's a long Polish one, but it does sound just like it's spelled. It's just a long spelling.
Yes. So I decided to do a thing. I decided I'm going to zoom all the way out. So you probably don't see it correctly, Zach, because you and I have this weird split screen thing going on. But I've zoomed all the way out so you guys can see my big empty room. So I got the guitars, I got the TV, which is getting mounted tonight. I've got the dog bed. It's an electric dog bed. So that way she won't use it.
Say electric dog bed?
Yeah, it's heated because my dog is always complaining about, she's always whining, like she's always cold once it's this time of year. So for 6 months, my dog, all she wants to do is snuggle. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. Between the hours of like 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. But
that's enough.
But when it's time to get some work done, it's really difficult. So like right now she's downstairs snuggling with my daughter. And I'm really pumped. I get to take my daughter to her first day of work. Now she's had jobs before, but this is her first big girl job. So
it's awesome to hear it. What's she doing?
She's I don't know, like just
driving her, but you don't know where.
Person at McDonald's. Like I couldn't tell you if she's flipping burgers, washing dishes, frying fries. But awesome. I know she's at McDonald's and I know what her shift is. I just couldn't tell you exactly what she's doing. But I'm sure I'll find out later when I pick her up. I get to pick her up at like midnight. She's working a closed shift.
There you go. Get used to that dad driver life.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'll gladly take her to work as long as she's working. So how about you, man? You get to take your wife to work, sort of.
I am actually. So in the last couple weeks, maybe, about 2 weeks, we did transition to living in an RV. So this is a fifth wheel. So the slides are open, so it looks a little bit wider than if we're driving. But yep. So we just got the one truck that pulls it, and so I'm not carless during the day. Drop her off at the train station, and she goes on over. I got my own pet who used to complain because we had an extension cord that would run from the exterior to the interior through the window. It was always cold in the morning, so they would always be in our bed. But we have, as of yesterday, found a way to get the extension cord through the undercarriage, and we have shut all the windows. It's beautiful.
Good for you.
A little bit of an engineer, I guess. That's what me and my wife have been joking about. We figured it out. Had to.
I saw on LinkedIn that you were pulling out the oven, and then last week. So for those of you that don't know, Ken Patterson puts weekly MSP community calls. So if you are linked up with Ken on social media, reach out to him every Thursday at 3:00. A group of us get together and we just shoot the breeze for an hour. So you were talking about the fact that you didn't like having a propane oven, and all of us were like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yep.
So what did you land on?
Yep. So we definitely landed on moving it out. So the reason for it is we intend to primarily go park to park and always having a hookup and not really boondocking and having, being without power. So the thought process behind this was, if we're going to go across country and, if we do have to boondock or, sleep in some type of parking lot or, an RV park without a full hookup, can we go without an oven? The obvious answer was yeah, we'll be fine. We have our generator power an electric, countertop air fryer oven, just as well as a propane one. The argument, that the TTD call was having was, it's going to heat up slower and, got to have it just to have it. And ultimately we went back and forth and just made more sense. Just since we're going to be at RV parks, there's no reason for us to use propane we're paying for when a lot of RV parks give you either an allotted amount or completely free electrical hookup anyway. So why add the costs?
That makes sense. I feel you. I guess my only thought is the, the built-in oven, isn't that a little bit bigger?
Yeah, it
So
is.
so I guess I'm not saying don't have don't I'm not saying don't go electric. I was just simply um of the mindset that replace that built-in oven with an electric built-in that does air frying. Because I know, like for a kitchen, like a regular size oven, you can get one that does convection and air
Yep.
fry in a few different modes, right? So my assumption is that they've got something that would fit where that one goes in your
I
RV
think they
there.
probably do. But it was those ones took so much electrical power to have like the built-in real electric oven as opposed to the countertop just type of thing. We opted for having a little bit of white space because, as you said, it is smaller. I bought the biggest one I could find. So hopefully there's not a ton of just white space, but we're gonna toss cabinet doors in front of it anyway. So it's because the way we actually got the outlet in through the undercarriage was taking the route of behind where the oven was. So it exposed a option for us to get power inside without sacrificing opening a window.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, good for you. And
It's a
and as
process.
much and as much as I'd love to keep talking with you about this kind of stuff, I'm sure the MSPs don't want to hear it. Let's be
I don't know,
honest.
man. It's quite the community of outdoorsy guys in the tech space. It's blown my mind the amount of support I've had on this move and the interest of people have in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, if we have time later, we'll get back into this. But the next thing I want to ask you about is that big check. When are you going to cash it?
I've been trying to find the bank to accept it, honestly. So this was from IT Nation a couple weeks ago. We were contestants and finalists in a program called PitchIt, where IT Nation basically opted for like a 26 company accelerator. 25 ended up going through it. And of the 25, there were 3 that were chosen as finalists to present at their large conference, IT Nation. This was Connect, right? This IT Nation Connect, I think, was the one. So all 3 of us got to go in. And fortunately, part of the perks was getting a free booth. So they're very supportive in that respect. But it was like a 16-week program of just coaching, interview skills, how to present yourself on social media, how to just generate demand and talk tech. So it was very much a deep dive into the industry. Fortunately, I've been here for a handful of years at this point, as have some of the other contestants. So a lot of it was kind of validation or repeating stuff I have heard, but I can see the value for all the companies who are brand new to this space because it is unique, right? I think we can both agree on that. It's very much unique, community driven type of style in the MSP world. Um, mhm.
That's really cool. I guess I didn't realize that PitchIt had this whole like crash course associated with it. But, um, and almost without making it sound like a reality show, it almost sounds like The
25
Voice.
startups go to a mansion in Palm Springs. Who comes out ahead?
It sounds like a combination of The Voice and Shark Tank.
Yep. No, it
Um,
really was pretty much like that. It would have been cool to have more ongoing like pitch competitions, like internal that weren't, public, just as like practice feedback kind of with our cohort. Maybe it would have been cool to have cohorts like within our 125 group. So I think there are ways to improve. And one of the fortunate things is, getting to come back as a winner. They want that type of feedback. And I was invited to be a coach next year to the next large cohort, and they're looking to improve. They're looking to engage. And I know we're both familiar with obviously tech degenerate community, but also the MSP geek community. They've talked about potentially getting involved there as well. So it's nice to see a program encouraging and bringing publicity to the early stage companies that maybe can't afford the 20, 30 grand show booth at, IT Nation without the help, Right of Boom, all the big shows like that. it's nice to see other communities wanting to invest and assist and encourage IT Nation to continue investing into this program.
I agree. Now, are there any like stipulations with the money? Like, do they say it has to be used for certain things?
There are not stipulations, and there is no buy-in to do PitchIt either, which is the cool part. Now, there are opportunities to do group advertising and group sponsorships, but it's completely opt-in. It's not required. But if you have some people in your PitchIt group all going to the same show, I know at Can IT Con, there was maybe a group of like 7 of us, and we did end up all going in on a happy hour together. So we got our own banner and stuff, but that was completely opt-in. There was no cost associated. And then like I said, the program was free. And with the winnings, there is opportunity to reinvest it with ConnectWise, and hopefully being a winner, leveraging that for some negotiation, as every company should do. But it is just coming straight to us, and it is free game to do what we want with it.
Now I know, gosh, I feel like you and I have known each other. Has it been a year?
I mean, it's been a while, brother.
It has. So, I mean, we've known each other for a little while, and I'll be honest, your platform, like what Senteon does, has always eluded me. But that's simply because I'm not in the trenches like I used to be. You know what I mean? So, do
Not
you
many
feel
get out,
like,
man. You did something.
I'm still not sure what, but
Mhm.
with that said, do you feel like you have refined your pitch? Like, do you feel like your pitch has improved exponentially?
Yeah. The crazy part is, so the coolest thing that Senteon does is we have a learning mode that will predict if a change in setting will or will not cause disruption before you make the change. That is by far our largest differentiator, the coolest thing about us. But winning Pitch It and going on stage and all of my, sales conversations or my demand gen today, I don't even mention that. And I feel like that is the coolest gosh darn thing in the world. As someone who's changed settings and gotten frustrated, like it'd be awesome to know the potential impact or the real impact through learning mode. And in all of my presentations and going through this course, I realized that's not it. That's not what I need to talk about. I very simply
Really?
put, yeah, really, it's crazy. But what I do need to talk about is just simply, we turn red marks green. In that 5-6 words, that's all I really need to say, because everyone knows what a red mark is, and everyone wants to turn red green, especially if you listen to that as you're in a regulatory space, or you're just a security minded individual who wants to turn their best practice red marks green. So I've
All
really
right.
simplified my presentation extremely.
All right. So I agree that we turn red marks green is good, but I gotta say that doesn't tell me anything. You know what I mean? Like, sure, we turn. And I don't know. Like, you moved your mic just a moment ago, so now you sound like you're far away.
All right, I've adjusted. My cat is getting all into the scene, so hopefully that's a little bit
No,
better.
that's okay. Yeah, we love cats. Um, all right. So, we turn red marks green. I like it, but I don't like it at the same time because it doesn't tell me red marks where,
Right.
green how. You know what I mean? So by hearing, because let's be honest, not everyone, but there are a lot of IT guys who do trial by fire, right?
Yep.
I've got 57 things on my to-do list, and maybe I don't have time to like research this change and roll it out as a test to a couple users. I'm just gonna update all the firewalls remote. Like,
Mhm.
like
Yep.
there are guys who do that. And hearing, we'll show you what's gonna break, or what this setting change is gonna do before it actually is done. That's a big selling point to me because I'm maybe one of those guys.
Yeah. And
I'll
it
be
does have
honest.
its place. Yeah, absolutely. And it does have its place. But I guess in the broad spectrum of doing interviews and doing pitching, and I don't come out just saying red mark screen. So my presentation kicked off. Literally the very first thing I said is like, said exactly what we do. We harden workstations, servers, and browsers to best practice standards. That was my opening. And then immediately after, here's the quiet part out loud. Tools today create more work, whether that's a scan, a pen test, whatever that is. They tell you a bunch of things wrong, highlight a bunch of things red, but they don't actually fix anything. So like that piece and your example of, updating the firewall or whatnot, there's a reason they want it to update the firewall. There's a reason they want it to do a change. It's because something somewhere else told them to do so. Something somewhere else highlighted something red. They didn't get out of bed this morning saying, I'm going to change the machine activity timeout. I'm going to disable NTLM, right? Like I'm going to update NTLM to accept the most up-to-date protocols, right? They didn't get out of bed and said that. Something triggered them to do so. And that trigger is typically a red mark or something of the sort that's relatable.
Okay. That makes more sense. So let's dive into this a little deeper. So I assume we're talking Microsoft 365.
So we're actually talking about the Microsoft machines, correct? But we're talking about the on-prem settings on the OS, on the browser, on applications on the OS. But it's very different and distinct compared to the 365 hardening. So when talking about that, I refer to like 365 hardening as cloud hardening. And then what Senteon do is on the OS with applications and the OS hardening to be the other half, right? You can do the cloud hardening, the 365 hardening as the outer shell of a piece of chocolate. But if you don't actually harden the endpoints themselves or incorporate technical policies at the endpoint level, it's a gooey center in the middle. And that's where Senteon needs it to be a solid piece of security, a solid piece of defense in depth, right? You can't just do one layer of hardening at the cloud and say, no one's ever going to get past the cloud, because that's just ignorant. And in the security world, defense in depth is the only way to do this. So get your 365 hardening in place. Absolutely. But don't forget about that technical policy hardening at the OS and the application level. I've actually seen a very interesting trend, one that I appreciate just from my viewpoint on security. But a couple of my friends, Chase Cunningham and Tara Wheeler, have Chase came on my webinar and said this aloud, but I saw Tara make a post about it. Why are we prioritizing? All right, let me preface this. The human, the employee, is the number one point of failure. Everyone says that, and it's not completely wrong. So the number one thing everyone needs to do, and everyone's been doing, and it's a massive, massive industry, a massive market, is phishing training, awareness training, all these customer face or employee facing trainings on security, right? Well, why are we training them if we don't have any of the guardrails in place? If we don't have any technical policies in place, are we really empowering them? Like if you're living in your house and you shouldn't let strangers in the door, so you never open that door, but the door's always unlocked and the windows are always open, is it that valuable to know you shouldn't open it for them when they can just get in on their own? So to their point, in my viewpoint on security, we need to incorporate hardening and these technical policies, not only at the 365, but at the endpoint level, so that we can better control or better, engage a security culture through technical policies, so that employees are not able to do the things they shouldn't be doing, and that they are able to stay within the guardrails. And then you do the awareness training on top of your existing security posture.
So, okay, I like this. And is this something that we're using Intune for? Are we still relying on group policy with an on-prem server? Is it a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both. Most people will attempt to do this through Intune, GPO, and PowerShell, all three at the same time. You have no idea what's doing what, and there's no really point of truth. And I will note, just through onboarding 20, 30,000 devices through all of our partners and everything, the average score that I see on a default Windows box is about 73 secure settings, 73 out of about 470, right? So it's about 17%, I think is what it is.
I was really excited until you told me out of 400s.
Yeah, exactly. So the average that I see is only about 83 hardened settings. So most MSPs out there, internal or external, will only modify about 10 GPOs to be a secure state according to CIS or that best practice framework. And that is obviously like, man, that is crazy to think we only do 10 settings, but you
It
look at
doesn't
the
sound like
security.
enough.
Yeah. I mean, the top 10 is important. I still find SMB1 findings at least once a week. And the worst part here is, in talking about the mediums to do this, is the MSP will go, it's in the Intune or the OU or whatever, and it says SMB1 is disabled. And then Senteon will go in because we don't trust Microsoft. We don't trust Intune. We don't trust GPO. We don't trust PowerShell. We don't use any of those mediums. We'll check the local reg key, sec pool, audit pool. And I'll go, yeah, Intune's saying it's not there. But I promise you, at the local level, the machine never got that order and it is turned on today. And here's the proof, right? So the mediums that are used today or attempted to be used very infrequently aren't even consistent. And because of that inconsistency, and I think just that hate or that frustration of why am I going to change a GPO if I don't know if it's actually going to take, has pushed this critical fundamental process to the back burner because there hasn't been a good way to do it. And that's what Senteon's changing.
Okay, so trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean,
And
let's even talk about that from the Intune level, like trust but verify. Intune literally is not capable of verifying the endpoint policy. So Intune is designed to only push. They will push, push, push. They have zero awareness if their push is successful or not successful. So there's times where, yes, the setting will be managed via Intune. We can see that, but Senteon will change it locally and it never changes. Intune never noticed we made a change at the local level. And it's now telling you at that machine level, it's set to this, even though it's not. We changed it.
I got to say, that's really disappointing that Intune doesn't have that capability, because I remember 15 years ago, the amount of frustration I had on a daily basis working with some of my larger clients, pushing out group policies, going to the endpoint, doing a GP result, seeing which
GP. I said that on
policies.
stage at IT Nation, by the way. I said, who loves the GP result reports?
I mean, it was helpful, especially, and I don't remember. So there's GP result. Is that the one where it just shows it to you in the command prompt?
It'll populate something, yeah, but
and then there's the other one, and it's been, like I said, 15 years, so I forget. There's the other one that pops up like a Windows window, and then it's got the list of group policies.
That's GP result. Yeah.
Okay, so what the heck's the other one I'm thinking of then?
I don't know what the other one you're thinking of, but yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, there was GP result, which was really helpful, but then there was one that gave you like a bird's eye overview, just in command prompt. You would type in something and it would show you which policies were enabled, enforced, etc. But
I know we've used it because I've seen it on when engineers get on the call, but I don't have that one memorized.
Yeah. Anyway, so GP result was super helpful. Does GP result even work with Intune?
Yeah, so GP result is showing you typically the correct information, but Intune may not always agree with the GP result or the local policy. So what we've seen, this is unfortunate, but there's a display value and then there's a backing value. So the display value of the GPO or the policy is, of course, what we're seeing. And then the backing value is what the machine is actually reading. So there's been instances where the display value is not correlating to the actual backing value. So Intune will think it's compliant, right? But the backing value is completely not aligned to the display value, meaning it's not compliant, even if the display value says it is. So there's instances where GP result may be misleading in that sense. But that's why you need to check the machine key above all else. That's the only way to actually know if this is accurate or not. I mean, the interesting story here on Senteon side, when we were starting out, we actually didn't change the display value. We only changed the backing value. This was years ago when we were still figuring out the market, figuring out, the most valuable thing to bring to market. And we would just change the backing value. So when we changed all the backing values and didn't touch the display, no one noticed. We failed every compliance audit. We failed every Intune check. Like no one noticed it was a secure, hardened box because the display value, but it functioned hardened. It functioned 100% CIS hardened, but nobody knew except for the user. So that's just another, if we can do it, think of what a bad guy can do with that backing value. If you don't enforce it and you don't put these things back when they change, which again, like if you can change a policy locally without Intune knowing, if a bad guy's able to do that, to enable SMB1, to enable NTLM1, like whatever that is, they can perform their attack and then they can put it right back. You know, Microsoft doesn't even know it changed, and they'll do that random interval. They'll do an unpredictable push at a time in the future, and they'll attempt to put it back, but they won't even tell you it changed. So I don't know. It just doesn't sound like a security tool to me because it's not. It's an MDM. Like it is not a true security product, and it shouldn't be treated as such to do endpoint hardening.
All right. So let's talk about Senteon. Let's go a little deeper. Is there an agent that you're deploying to the endpoint?
Yep. Because we are unable to, if we're going to build the hardening company, we need to be 100% accurate 100% of the time. And unfortunately, if we try to do this via API, with GPO, with Intune, with whatever else, we were never able to complete that goal. So we did build our own agent so that we can make local policy edits at the reg key, sec pool, and audit pool level so that we can guarantee, and better than that, provide change tracking. And we're the first company on the market to do this, but perform actual, reliable, real-time change tracking of when that policy changes, what it changes to and from, who's making the changes, and all of that in a single table for review for the auditor or whoever needs it.
So why would I want, besides the obvious reason of we actually do it correctly, why would I want to use Senteon instead of finding a way to do this natively with Microsoft? There's got to be a way.
I mean, you tell me if you find a way. There's not. That's why our company exists. If you can attempt to do this over Intune, you know, my favorite thing during onboardings, and you know, I'm very proud of my conversion rate because it's well over 70%. And if you do a POC in a completely Intune joined, you know, all the machines are in the same OU, and I onboard you, I will prove to you that not all the machines are configured the same way. At least one, typically way more than one, will be different than the rest. And it's not the engineer's fault. It's not the MSP's fault, because I'm proving to you the medium you trust, AKA doing this over Intune, doing this over whatever, is not being honest with you, because the policies they say are in place are only target options and not what reality is.
I'm sure you can understand. This all makes my brain hurt.
I mean,
it's for once, it's not because you're getting too technical. It's because how could Microsoft? I mean,
Microsoft dissolved their GPO department a couple of years ago. Did you know that?
I did not.
Doesn't even
But
exist.
I guess my initial thought is, I mean, it's almost 2025. You know, like CMMC is going to be a thing here. Like, what are we talking? Weeks now?
Yeah.
And we still don't have a way to like do this. Are you the only platform that you're aware of that does this, or are you just the only one for MSPs?
We are definitely the only one for the MSPs. We're the only one that I'm aware of that does change tracking, which is a verbatim requirement of CMMC. So we do have our CMMC board at Senteon, and we're building this product to align to as much of CMMC as we can, but we already do more than anyone in the entire world. Looking at like the enterprise scope, I believe there's another company like that does this on-prem only, but it is still very manual. There's no learning mode. But yeah, regarding for MSPs with a learning mode and change tracking, there's no one like us.
And are you channel only, or are you also selling to the enterprise?
Yep. So we do have our distributors in place because we do sell through virtual CISOs, bars, and we have an international distributor in the EU and the APAC region. But regarding buying for me personally, I just sell to MSPs.
Gotcha. And the cost?
Yeah, so we have 2 buckets. Dollar per license per month is typically where everyone gets to.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Seems completely reasonable.
It's 0.016 cents per setting, if you want to look at it that way.
0.016 cents per setting. Because you have that many settings.
Yeah,
I
I might have missed a zero in that. Let me pull up my calculator.
So, but it's like 100th or 1,000th of a penny per setting is what you're telling me?
Yeah, exactly. Because we do
Okay.
about like 1,500 settings or something along those lines.
All right. So
we did the
of
math
those
at IT Nation, but I don't remember. But I think for our next banner, we're just going to put the per setting price, get a laugh out of it.
So let's talk about these settings for a minute, because I suspect, as with all cybersecurity, MSPs and the clients of MSPs need to balance hardening and cybersecurity with convenience, right?
Sure.
So if you were to, uh, you know, let's just say enable at the simplest sense all of these settings and completely harden an endpoint,
Yep.
like that end user can't work anymore.
100%. That is not ever what anyone should do.
Okay. So let's think about this. I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of multiple types of MSPs. So there's, let's call them your startup MSPs, the ones that are like sub 1 mil, maybe even sub 500,000. Like they're small. There's like 1 or 2 guys, and let's be honest, some of them are in over their heads.
Sure.
Right? And it's not that they're bad technicians. They just sometimes aren't as up to date with all of the training and education that's out there.
Sometimes those ones are the best technicians I work with. Just shout out to those one-man engineer owning shops. Like those are sometimes my best partners.
Absolutely. But on, to keep things fair here, like, do you have idiot mode where like, I don't have time to learn like myself about all of these settings right now? Like I will eventually learn about all of this stuff, but I just need this, like, give me some baseline things that I should be doing for all my endpoints. Do you have that somewhere?
If you're just looking to do a few settings, and you aren't really held to a standard and you're not really worried necessarily about the security, do it via a medium you already have. That would kind of defeat the purpose of Senteon. Senteon is built with, this, what mode did you call it? The simple mode or whatever, by design, right? I am going to get each of your individual devices as close to CIS or as close to best practice security as possible without your end client noticing, because that's how the platform's designed. We built it with a learning mode to say, hey, of the 1,500, here's the ones your client will get upset about. Here's the ones they won't notice. Click here. Within 20 minutes, I can get 1,000 machines all to CIS and the end client won't notice.
That's amazing.
That's the power of learning mode. That's just the setup process. Is we have the known end client interface. So there's the known endpoint interface questionnaire, takes a couple minutes to go through. This is things like message log on text, right? Do you want one? Yes or no, right? That is a question our learning mode can't determine for us. You need to tell us. Don't display the username, right? You need to tell us, can your client base handle typing in their username every single time, right? So there's the preliminary, we call it primer, just like, you can't paint until you put the primer on, right? So you have the primer questions, and then the greater 1,500 that sit outside of the primer, all are associated with the learning mode that will then present to you, hey, these ones came up with, disruption flags. These ones didn't. Click here to create an exception for all the ones Senteon thinks are disruptive. Click here to put everything else in place. And literally, 20 minutes is all I need. For a first-time user, give them 60 minutes just so they can get familiar with the platform. But realistically, anyone with Senteon can harden thousands of devices in under an hour.
Okay. So for the MSPs who are big into compliance. Like I'm going to name drop a little bit here. So Josh, I think it's Hobain. His MSP, they built this whole cybersecurity maturity level
Mhm.
platform. So uh, this sounds like it would be great for them. Again, trust but verify, or for the number of people who um, are all about CMMC and the tech degenerates, like
Yep.
oh gosh, Mark Menzies and uh,
Mark's a user.
yeah, Matt Strunk, Henry Tim, like
Yep.
these are guys that they could easily take this and say, you know what, I need to verify that CMMC compliance is happening for all of these endpoints. They
Yep.
deploy it, and all is right with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, Josh, who you're referencing at the start, but yeah, if he has some type of platform like that, this is a compliment to that type of thing. MSPs are always like, oh, I gotta if I'm gonna add something to stack, I have to remove one or two things. That's not true with what we do because we are very complementary. An EDR is not going to be changing system settings. A SIM is not going to be changing system settings. No one else is touching the settings that we are working with. So that's where we are just simply a automation add-on to where our value prop isn't we're eliminating things from your stack. We are actually enhancing the efficacy of the other things in your stack. So let's brainstorm that really quick. An EDR is looking at behavior anomalies and whatever else type of things. If Senteon can incorporate technical policies and keep them in place, that standardizes a lot of that behavior so that if someone acts out or acts outside of the hardened policy or changes a hardened policy, that's going to let the EDR know something's up. And that type of complementary story is very powerful. And not only that, Senseon's very fortunate for this. We don't necessarily need to swallow another technology because the revenue improvement and just honestly, I call it engineer happiness. But because we standardize all the systems to be the same configurations and you're no longer troubleshooting GPO to know, did this take, did this not, GP force, reboot the system, right? Senteon's doing it all automatically with the feedback of it worked or did not work. It's telling you that in real time. Now the engineers can troubleshoot things they need to troubleshoot as opposed to trying to make Microsoft work.
Very, very neat. All right. So, what am I forgetting? Oh, I just tagged you on Discord to get you an introduction with Josh.
Well, thank you.
We'll see how that goes. I'm not going to promise it's going to turn into business, but I think you two could have some really neat conversations together. And that's my goal is, when I see like two people where they've got a lot of alignment and overlap in their goals, I just think you guys should talk,
Yeah, no, I'm always down for introductions. Is Josh involved with the IR games? If you're familiar with that, maybe you're not. I don't know, but his picture, his company is definitely familiar. Maybe I have met him, but I've never had a meeting with him. I know that for sure.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you think MSPs need to know Senteon?
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, fundamentals need to start being prioritized. If you're check marking yes to on a cyber insurance form, do you have a baseline or do you have a hardened baseline? If an incident happens, you're going to have to prove that. And running a GP result on a single system or, some type of Intune report, that type of stuff is not real attestation because you can't prove it. You can't show the change tracking. So if you are check marking yes to that, or if you're in banking or if you're in CMMC world, they require change tracking. If you just have a manually worked on Excel workbook where you're inputting whenever someone changes something, is that really encapsulating every single setting and every single change? Or does a Windows update change a reg key without telling you? Or does that new shiny object that you're testing out change a reg key without telling you? And then when you uninstall it, does it change it back? The answer to all of this is no. and I will prove all of it to you during any experience we have together when you test out Senteon. The other piece for everyone to know, Senteon does have a freemium, right? We encourage you to look at doing this and getting the most out of it. So we do hold a weekly webinar series where we talk about these settings and have educational content around it. It's all accessible via the YouTube page and the Senteon Resource Hub. Anyone can access it. But the platform itself also has a freemium. So you can get access to all of the CIS recommendations with all of the crosswalks to CMMC, PCI, whatever flavor or framework you need to crosswalk to. And you can see all of this in real time through a dynamic table. If you do want to test out Senteon and give it a ride, if you did listen to this podcast, let me know. I always give any podcast who has me on their audience a gift of 100 free internal and external assessments. So you can see your real security posture, internal and external. Just let me know that you caught it on one of the shows. So very much thank you for having me on. And those are the key things I would say. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my most active platform.
Wonderful. Zach, thank you so much for being a guest. I like I said before, man, I find your platform fascinating, and I really do wish you the best of success. I hope that you get many more giant, oversized checks.
I'll just start applying for some more pitch competitions.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, and thank you everyone for watching. Take care.
Thank you.